Alright then, let's welcome back. So here we are in the wee hours. What time is it? 7:30 a.m. wherever I am. So yeah, got up early, got some workout, and what do you know, back into setups. So yeah, apologies for not sticking with the schedule of at least one video per week or whatever. You know how it is with full-time workers like us. Anyway, we are back for some more setup. So here is the setup that I'm going to show you for the Dutch GP here at Zandvoort. And of course, as usual, I go for a race setup. The purpose is, well, in the race, that's a better setup to use compared to a full-on time trial setup. Not to say the time trial setup is bad, it's just that, it doesn't suit everyone's driving style. My driving style, I don't know how to describe it. I don't like the front to be too pointy. I want it to turn into a corner, but at the same time, I don't want the rear to just like slide around. So, well, that's the kind of setup that I like, and I like it when it's very good on the exits. So that's probably how I like to find time compared to some other drivers out there. So everyone's gonna have a different style. Setups are gonna be catered individually, so you have to make changes, small changes, not much, just small changes according to your needs. Now the setup that you saw, the setup that I use with the best lap that I did, the 10.5, that's with the race setup. And then here, as you can see, the world record setup that I used, and from the world record time, whoever did that. And that's this, as you can see, 42 38 wings, pretty standard setup here. Pretty good wings for a high downforce circuit like Zandvoort. 55 on throttle, 50 off throttle. That's quite the standard nowadays. I think I'm starting to prefer to run 50 in all tracks, just because it gives so much more rotation in the rear. It allows the rear to turn in into the corner. So using that, to my knowledge, I can either increase the rear wing if I need to at high downforce tracks, or even reduce it, reduce the front wing to make sure the car is perfectly balanced as I like it. And suspension geometry, the usual right left, no questions about this. This is the fastest, most stable way to go. You can make it more stable, but you're gonna lose time, so run this pretty much all tracks, it'll be fine. Same as the transmission, run it all the way the same. Suspension, well, again, this is where you're gonna be fine-tuning it to your liking. Mainly affects the handling of the car, how you feel. Majority of the lap time you're going to be finding through aerodynamics. First of all, right, if you have higher wings, obviously going to be fast in the corners. When you have lower wings, you're going to be quick on the straights, as I'll show you in my race setup. Suspension is where you really just fine tune the balance of the car to make sure you feel how you want. If you want the car to be pointier, you want the front to bite in more into the corner, at the risk of having more mid corner overstay and all, everything you can manage here. If you want more rear and stability on maybe on corner entry, on corner exits, whatever phase of the corner, you can do it here. Apart from the wings, this is where you adjust it. All right, I'll come to the suspension real quick in a while. Brake pressure, again, you run the same thing, no doubt about that. Tire pressures, well, world record setup as it is, no tire temperatures, no issues about that in time trial. You can run as high pressures as you want. In time trial, if you're just going for quicker laps, maximum rear tire pressures, that is the best recipe around. A front tire pressures, you want to run it, usually you can run it minimum. You can even run it higher. The reason you want to run it higher in time trial is so that the front is more responsive on turning, especially in high speed, where there's a lot of high speed corners here. All right, and well, that's pretty much the time trial setup. A suspension here in the world record setup is 4.1, 3.1, and a 7.5 ride height. Well, always keep the rear suspension and rear anti-roll by 1, so that your rear end is quite stable in this car, especially in these cars this year, because there's a lot more weight in the car and the rear end tends to snap even more than last year. So it's so much easier to lose the car under acceleration, even under braking, but more so under acceleration and while you're cornering in high speed. Front suspension and front roll bar, the higher you go on it, so the more to the right you go, the firmer it is, the stiffer it is. It's gonna add stability to your car, not necessarily make it slower, but if you need some stability in the car, depending on which type of corners, slow speed corners or high speed corners, this is where you adjust it. Front suspension, typically if you have understeer on entry into a corner, you want to reduce it. If you have oversteer into a corner, you want to increase it. One click at a time, test it out, and keep going until you feel like you've hit a sweet spot, and then keep going. If you feel like, oh, suddenly it's too understeer on entry, just go back down to what you liked. So that's how you find a sweet spot. Again, all of this I'll come to a proper explanation on how to find the right setup for each of these pages that you have in my setup guide that I'll prepare towards the end of the month. It's already prepared halfway, so it's a lot of things to describe. Front entry roll bar, more so you feel it like once you enter a corner, so around the mid face of the corner, mid corner to exit, you can feel this. More so in mid corner. If your car is struggling to rotate mid corner, you're turning and turning and turning, you don't want to increase the arrow anymore, or you've reached the limit of the arrow that you want to use, and you feel the car is just not responding in high speed a little more you need. So you reduce the front entry roll bar, allows the car to turn in mid corner as you're turning the steering even more. If you increase the front entry roll bar, it's gonna sort of reduce the amount of the rotation you have in the corner. Not necessarily a bad thing. Again, you can use this if your car is too snappy into a corner, mid cornering phase. So you're trying to turn, you're applying a bit of power, and then suddenly the car just snaps around. You can try increasing the front entry roll bar a bit. High speed corners, it's generally advisable to go higher. As you've seen in some of my setups, I've gone 11 on the front entry roll bar. It works in high speed tracks. Say it's like Silverstone or something, it may work, or Japan. But in tracks where you have a lot of slow speed corners, or maybe tighter corners like you have in Zandvoort here, you have some pretty tight corners, especially in the last sector, the chicane. Right, it's pretty tight. Having higher anti-roll bar, too high anti-roll bar, will make your car sluggish on mid corner phase, so it's pretty slow to change direction. And it's a good reason why the world record setup is on a low front anti-roll bar. That's because it allows you to change direction very quick. Even in slow speed to medium speed, you want to quickly flick the car into a corner and hope it sticks. This is how you do it. If your car is not turning in enough, if it's not sticking it enough, you reduce it. If you feel it's turning too much in the mid corner phase, yeah, you reduce it, you go up even higher. Now, right height is sort of a black magic around here. Typically you do not want to be running any lower than 5 in most tracks. The higher downforce you have on your car, it is preferably to go higher on the right height, just so the car doesn't bottom out. Because when you have more aero load, the car is going to be pushed down onto the ground even more. And especially on a track where you have to make use of some of the curbs, you want to run that right height slightly higher, so that when you do ride on the curbs, your car is not going to bottom out and spin around. So you can go on 5. I've tried 4. It's not going to work around here because you bottom out on some of the curbs that you have to take. And also in high speed, when you have high speed corners, which there are plenty of here, if you run a very low ride height, well, yeah, maybe you can find a bit of time on exits and whatnot, but while you're cornering in high speed, lower ride height will bottom out. And as you try to go through high speed corners, say turn 7, skyflood, or however you pronounce it, you're gonna lose your back end very easily. So running higher, it will make the car a little bit more stable in high speed. You don't have to worry about the car sliding in high speed. So if you need a bit more confidence in those high speed corners, go up 1 click. Don't go too high, otherwise it's becoming too draggy of a car. Front right height, again, it's not really realistic here, Abi, speaking about high ride heights and on the front, but this is what works in the game. You do not want to be running too low of front right height either, because again, it's going to bottom out the front. When your front bottom out into a corner, let's say you're braking, the front goes down first, right? If you have it too low, the front of your car, it's not going to have enough ground clearance. That's going to cause less air passing down it, and that's going to cause your car to lose grip and eventually it'll spin even more. But some corners, it may benefit from a lower ride height, so that it gives you more downforce in the car, lets your car turn in more efficiently into a corner. In the game, well, you can run for this track, at least I'll say run 7 should be good. 6 also is good. You go higher, you generate slightly more understeer. Of course, if you're higher off the ground, you're gonna have less downforce generated, so it's gonna generate that slight bit of understeer. Not really recommended around this track because there's a lot of high speed corners. So 7, I'd say, is just nice. Rear, if you want to go 6, that's pretty good. Okay, so that's a world record setup. Will it be useful in a race? Yes, exactly, absolutely. You just have to change the tire pressures and go minimum on the front and minimum on the rears, because Zandvoort, it just chews up your tires, whether you're on the softs, on the hards, or mediums. Tire temperature shoot through the roof. And I've tested this, and for me, I can drive the car with 3 clicks of rear pressures in full hot sun conditions, like you can see at the bottom here. Full sunny conditions in a race, I can drive with 3 clicks. That's perfect for me on the hard tires. All right, you want to be on the mediums first and then the hards, because the hards are so durable in the race. But if you're not confident of managing your tires, or if you feel you just want to be safe, just go minimum tire pressures on all tires, you'll be fine. Cool. And now let's have a look at my custom setup that I modified from the world record setup to, you know, basically get competitive in the race. Now I did reduce it to 41.35. My apologies just now. Yeah, so 41.35 is what I ran for qualifying. You do notice that the world record setup is 42.33, 42.38. So, you know, if you go lower on the rear, it's gonna cost more oversteer on the front, right? So I just balance it out by, well, reducing the front wing, and just nice for me. Okay, a reason why I went lower is because in my trial practice run, trial practice run, same thing, bruh. In my practice run for the league race, all right, in a full online mode, well, the world record setup is okay, but it's quite draggy and it's super difficult to overtake on the pit straight. And even if you can follow quite closely to someone's diffuser coming out of the last corner, if they have a higher, they have a low downforce setup, you with DRS, it's going to be very difficult to overtake because the straight is not long enough. Plus, if you defend the inside, it's so much easier to, you know, take the corner and defend your position. So what you're going to need is significantly low aero so that you can get the overtake done by like the middle of the track or before the braking zone. So for that, I've gone 41.35 for a qualifying run, and also on the race start if I'm starting on the hards. If I'm starting on the mediums, 40.35, just nice as well. And in the second stint, I'll just drop the wing by 1. That's all I need to do. You do have to watch out for tire temperatures, so maybe you can keep the front as it is in the second stint. Okay, and transmission, again, it's the same, 55, 50, pretty good. You don't want to go any lower because then it starts to generate wheel spin under acceleration, especially in lower speed. High speed, well, high speed, you know, theoretically speaking, you want it to be as low as possible so that you know, the car gets a lot of turn in while you're going through high speed corners. But if you have too low, it's also going to cause the rear end to be unstable. So 55 is just a sweet spot. 60 might be useful in some conditions in the race. Say your tires are starting to wear out and whatnot, you feel a lack of grip coming from the rears, or when you go on power and the rear starts to slide out, it's actually okay to increase your on throttle differential through the MFD by about 1 click, so 5%. That should help your rear to slide less. And of course, if you have smoother inputs, that's going to be all fine. Off throttle, keep it at 50, just nice around here. Suspension geometry, no changes. Suspension, a bit of a change here. The reason I've gone for 1 click higher on each of the suspension and front suspension and interroll bar is just to give the car a bit more stability on the front end. Because I've gone with low downforce, that means, you know, the car is not going to be as stable as a high downforce setup in cornering phase. So just 1 click, it just worked overall for me. And again, you can use this to customize your setup. Brakes is the same. Tire pressures, there you go, 0 on the front, 3 clicks on the rear. But I recommend starting on 0, 0 all the way for the tire pressures in qualifying. In the race, you'll be fine. If it's going to rain though, you can get away with, you know, at least 2 clicks on the front and then maybe 5 clicks on the rear if it's going to be full raining. If it's going to be mixed condition, prioritize tire pressures for the dries. All right. If it's starting rain and then dries, go with this. If it's starting dry and then going to wets, perhaps you want to run maybe 1 click higher pressures. That's all, and you'll be fine in the race. Either way, start with the minimum and you'll be fine. There you go. Setup, let's summarize it. 4135, 5550 on the transmission, right, left, geometry. Suspension is 514175, brakes 150 as usual. Tire pressures minimum on the front, and start with minimum on the rear and then go up as you need. My personal choice is 3 clicks, but you can always try lower or higher. So that's about it. And yeah, just be careful of tire wear when you're using a lower downforce setup like this. I was on the teeter edge of, like, bursting my tires. I started on hards. There was a safety car in the middle of the race, around lap 12, lap 13. So I had to take my mediums for about 20 laps, which was a difficult task to do. Luckily there was a VSC on like 3 or 4 laps to go, and I pitted for softs, but I lost a lot of position there. So fastest lap anyway, I'll take that as a bonus, as long as you're having fun, isn't it? So there you go, have fun on the track. And if you're done watching, I will play through the track guide if you want to watch that. If you don't want to watch it, sure, leave a like, and then you can proceed to watching any other stuff on the channel here. Now for those who are staying till this segment, here is the track guide for you. And now let's go out on track and see how we take the fastest lap. Again, if you want to see my throttle inputs, I recommend to go back to the start of the video, watch the first 2 minutes on the inputs, on the brakes and pedals and the wheel, how much it turns and all that, and you can get an idea of how to improve your lines. But let's go to the track guide and see how we can maybe take the corners better around here. So let's where do we replay? Okay. Okay, so here we are. To start off the lap in Zandvoort, you want to make sure you have a pretty good exit. If it's a qualifying run, even more crucial to get a good exit here. So brake around the 50 meter or the black bot, which is equally good, and then 5th gear, turn it in, and then let the car rev out on 5th gear instead of shifting up to 6. Shifting up to 6 will cause a bit of understeer and you will run onto the curb, which is quite scary. As you can see here, I did run over the curb quite a lot, and that almost killed me. It's not recommended to do this, but because my car was straight while I was taking the curb, it somehow survived. 50-50 chance there of spinning out, so be careful not to fully mount. Ideally you want to be a bit more to the right. You don't want to touch the second layer of the curb on the outside. Now get a good exit, stay tight here. It minimizes the track distance and also does not scrub off any speed because it's a banked corner. So you want to stay tight and then let the car run out wide to start your qualifying lap. DRS as soon as it's available into turn 1. Now I use my reference is this black box over here, as you can see. As soon as I pass the black box, and then there's a little white patch over here just after that, I use that as a brake marker. Or if you can spot that that screen on the right side, you can also use that as a brake marker. So as soon as you almost touch that line, brake for it, down to 5th gear, and then stay very tight to the corner. As you can see here, it's very tight. Even touching the curb a little bit, it should be okay, but you do not want to be mounting the whole thing. Well, ideal lap you want to be a bit more to the left, but keep it tight here. Rotate the car, turn your steering hard, and then once you got to the corner, start powering out. It's important to keep a little bit of throttle pinned on the exit little by little and increase it as you go out. Let the car run wide here, let it run wide. Take the exit curb, keep it straight though. Once you're on the exit curb, keep it straight, like as you're coming in to the exit, keep it straight, and yeah, run down to the next corner. Now here, where do you want to brake? Let's see. So there's a little kink here as the track straightens out. Again, there's a black box here. Just before you hit the black box, just you can turn the car in 6th gear, or you can also downshift to 5th. No brakes, no braking required here, otherwise it ruins your momentum and the speed that you carry into the corner. So again, this is about practicing and perfecting the line you want to take here. Very risky line sometimes. You have to tap the curb sometimes. If you do tap the curb, you have to be careful not to turn too much. So always, well, practice your lines, or you can miss it entirely, run wide on the exit and then cut back in for the next corner. Here, as soon as my car is straightened out, yeah, I just brake for it. It has to go by feeling. This corner for me, I think, is by feeling. I can't really get a reference point, so it's more of a, you know, how much is the distance to the braking zone. So as soon as my car is straight, I just brake about 25-30%, not more than 50% brakes. 4th gear, got turned in. I ran a little bit wide here. Ideally you want to be tighter to the apex, and then but on the exit you want to avoid the inside line, the left line, because that's a bit banked and shallow, and it induces wheel spin on exit and it can spin you out. So you want to take the high line around the banking, straighten out your car as soon as possible. You can use a little bit of the runoff, the exit curve. I don't recommend it, but keep the car on the track. Power down in 5th gear, 6th gear, 7th gear. Keep it in 7, rev it out till 7th gear, and then here another braking zone, quite understeery downhill section. You see this black box or the orange marker on the wall? That is my turning in point / braking point in a race. In qualifying run, you don't need to brake again. You just need to lift off, downshift, turn the car into the corner and let it go in. Again, I ran wide here. That was, oh well, that wasn't my lap anyway. So let me show you my fastest lap instead. Well, that was a big F. Now let's go forward. There you go. Okay, so coming up to this corner, turn 6 I believe, which has been renumbered here. So shift down to 6th. Once you feel the car turning in already, you know the car is pointing in the right direction, start powering out of the corner again. Let it run wide, let it rev on in 6th gear. Take the exit curve a little bit if you need, but not too much. Again, just the first layer. 2nd layer snaps the car away. All right, and then here back into the next corner here. Let's see, as soon as the curve ends, or the black box, whichever is your preference, a downshift 6th gear. You can even double downshift to 5th, and then you don't want to be touching the curb on entry, but stay very close to it. It will open up the next corner. And then back up to 6th. Let the car run wide again, but don't run on the exit curb. If you run, make sure it's only partially on the first layer. Now here into the next part, the brake markers are still there. You can use that as a reference, but ideally you want to use the red Emirates board on the left side as your marker. As soon as you hit that, as soon as you start that, it hits your peripheral vision, or this little red board on the right, the Emirates board on the right. As soon as you start seeing that, just a split second later, start braking. You can take it in 5th, you can take it in 4th, but as soon as you hit the apex, power down, start powering down a bit, shift up to 5th, let the car run wide again. I like to take it wider, somehow it feels more natural to me. Some like to take it tighter, whichever floats your boat, go for it. 5th gear, rev it out, and at the 50-meter board, or that blue toilet that you see near the marshal post, near the ambulance, that's where I turn in. Alright, so as soon as I hit that, I make sure my car is straight before I enter the corner, and then just mild tap on the brake. 4th gear, and then stick tight to the apex. This year you have to stick tight to the apex. Last year you could go wide. And then as soon as you hit the apex again, power out of it, let it run wide again. Don't be afraid, but be careful of not overusing the curb. 1 layer is good, 2 layers is bad. DRS wide open, run down to the next braking zone. Keep it in 7th gear. In qualifying, in race, it's okay. And when the curb starts, so that's somewhere around the 75-meter board, 80 to 75, you brake there. 4th gear, take this curb, a lot of it you can gain time. This is not invalid. All right, as long as you have one tire touching the track at all time, it will be valid. So you can see I'm taking the corner as it should be. You know, it's like parallel to the edge of that, you know, this triangular curve here. this opens up your entry into the next part of the chicane. As soon as you hit that, you'll be very close to the apex of this next corner. Shift down to third, and I ran a little bit wide, that's okay, but you have to make sure you bring back the car to the left and power out straight. Again, don't be afraid to use the exit curb, but don't use too much of this curb. Ideally, you want to stay off it at all times so that you can get the best acceleration. Fourth gear, fifth gear, and then power out of it. 50-meter board or the black box. As soon as you hit that, downshift to fifth, stay very close to the apex, and sometimes you can touch the curb, but nothing more than touching it. Just smidge, that's all. Any more and it spits your car around. Fifth gear, keep some power. As soon as you hit the apex, keep some power, let the car run wide but not too wide. This is again, I think, okay, because the line that I took was just nice. Stay tight to the apex for a qualifying run. Best run to the line, stay tight to the right, gain a few thousands, and that's a lap of Zandvoort. Take care everyone, stay safe, and I'll see y'all in the next one. It's been a long guide once again. I'm trying to shorten it again, but I like to talk. Hope this kept you entertained. Hope this taught you a little bit on how to improve your lap time in Zandvoort, and I'll see y'all in the next one, which is going to be Saudi or France, either one, whichever I prepared earlier. All right, so yep, thank you, stay safe, and goodbye.